Welcome to another episode of Red and Black, where your conservatism is not just the color that you're used to. I'm Lenny McAllister, the only host of Red and Black in Red and Black history, which, as you well know, is long stretching, that has both been impeached and inaugurated in the same week. Now, you want to know how that happened? You're going to have to ask these three people because they're my accomplices in all of this, starting with the lady of the group, who is the official bar opener of the state of California, Kira Davis. Kira, do you go around and smash champagne bottles on the side of bars in California now that they're going to probably start opening because the Democrats are running stuff in Washington, D.C. again?
That's the plan, Lenny. I mean, that is the plan. Someone needs to do it. And I've been waiting for a long time. I'll tell you what, our dear viewers, I was very late. I made these gentlemen wait for me tonight because I had totally let the time get away from me. And I know a lot of you out there would say, well, Kira, you're busy. You're a busy mom. You're homeschooling your daughter. You're a podcaster. You're editor-at-large for Red State. You host Just Listen to Yourself podcast with Kira Davis, which is available wherever you find your podcasts. And you have so much going on. So you shouldn't have to apologize to these guys for being late. But the reason I'm late doesn't have anything to do with any of that. I was just looking for a bar to go to tonight. And I was just online looking to see what bars were open. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, shoot, we're supposed to be recording. Anyways, I didn't find a bar yet. But if anyone has suggestions, hit me up for the next time.
And what's worse about all this is not all that you just heard, all that shenanigans. It's the fact that she's later than this dude. You have to be really, really late for this shoot if you're going to be later than the dude down there.
Lenny, I was looking for a bar. What do you want from me? I was looking for a bar.
There's late.
To be fair, her excuse is far more awesome than mine.
There's late. And then there's Jeff Charles late, who, by the way, don't distract him during this show very much, our dear audience, because he's contemplating a possible career move because Dr. Chris Metzler just offered him a job in the Biden administration. He's contemplating because it gets him close. Well, Jeff, say hello.
Hello. Yes, and I am willing to take one for the team. Anything that gets me in the White House next to Kamala Harris, I will take one for the team, and I will subvert everything from the inside. I promise. Or I'll just become a raging socialist. But the reason why I'm late is because I got caught up practicing banjo because I'm learning my first song.
My excuse was way cooler.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hold on. Hold on.
Banjo, yes.
Before you can introduce Dr. Metzler, let's just be very, very clear about this, right? Jeff took 3 episodes to make 1 episode of a podcast. How long is it going to take for him to learn banjo to actually do his first song?
This time next year.
I've been learning since December. So my teacher says I'm about ready to learn how to play Cripple Creek. So hopefully I've got a lot of it down. But it's a completely new instrument for me. So I'm thinking within the next 2 weeks, I'll be able to play the whole song. That's what I'm.
Okay, well, y'all, we're going to CPAC. Jeff's going to be at CPAC, so I'm going to get a spot on Media Row just so Jeff can come play the banjo at CPAC, and we can see for ourselves how much his lessons have been helping him.
And what Jeff is going to play at CPAC is in the spirit of bipartisanship. He and Kermit the Frog's going to be sipping on some tea and playing Rainbow Connection so we can show just how much he's going to fit into his new job.
Exactly. Not that easy being green.
Exactly.
Wow.
The guy over there who stirs up trouble. I thought with all the degrees and, you know, every time you hear a bell ring, an angel gets their wings and Chris Metzler gets another degree. He was supposed to bring some type of sanity to this show, and yet he has not. So I'm just going to introduce him and hope that maybe, just maybe, he can have a better influence on all of us. Dr. Metzler, hello.
Hello. What's up? What y'all doing? How y'all doing?
What's your excuse for being on time, Dr. M?
Well, I'm always the one who's head of the class. I get there early.
Apple polisher. Yeah, exactly.
Apple for the teacher.
Yeah, apple for the teacher, that kind of stuff. Except now it would have to be a virtual apple because
Right.
Right.
there you go. But I'm so glad that the Democrats are in charge, because now our COVID is going to disappear.
Yeah.
And everything's going to be open again, except in Florida, because you know what, y'all, we never closed. But for the rest of the country, everything will be opened again. And I can't wait to talk about the inauguration and the reversal of all these policies.
Oh, it's been amazing few days.
It's so, and I told you, he brings order to the force, Dr. Metzler does, because that's exactly the first thing I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to talk to Kira, if she can keep her mind off of bars for just a second. Kira, the inauguration happened this week. Apparently, all order has been restored and all race relations have been calmed. We're hearing Democrats saying, hey, you can't shut down the economy completely because there will be no economy to come back to, which seemed to be the argument this time last year. But the first question I want to ask you is this. The inauguration happened. Now what? Because that seemed to be the big victory for Democrats and the big victory for many people. What happened? Now what happens?
Well, we've seen what happens, right? Biden's going to reverse all the executive orders that Trump put in place, which isn't unexpected. I mean, I think people need to not panic. Obviously, it's news and we're reporting it over at Red State. We're reporting on every executive order that he's flipping over. But it's important to remember that executive orders are weak, and that's why you don't rule by executive order. Trump did the same thing to Obama. So it's not something necessarily to be shocked about. But what's next also is, reopening. And I think it's really interesting that I think this is indicative of what we're going to see from the Biden administration moving forward. I don't think Biden's message is totally coordinated with the media anymore. I don't think they're communicating with the media, because Biden came out today and said, hey, we're months away from being from even having any kind of improvement. It's still going to be really a dark winter. But like all the Democrat governors and mayors are like, hey, it's time to open, y'all. Like we're not gonna have anything to open to. So I think there's a big communication about what they're supposed to be doing next, which is kind of tickling me. But the other thing that is happening next on the Democrats' deliberate path to unity is impeachment. So today they announced that they'd be holding I think 8 days from now. They're going to start the impeachment trial for what? God knows what. I think that they think it's going to be the kill shot for Trump and the kill shot they're going to put down this conservative movement once and for all. And it's my opinion that that's actually going to backfire there. We talked last week about overreach, how the Democrats like to overreach. I think impeachment is an overreach. I think Americans on all sides of the aisles just want to move on. Just want to move on from this. And people who hate Trump want to forget about it, Yeah. And people who love Trump aren't going to be in favor of impeachment. So I don't know who the impeachment is for.
This question, and I want to go to something you touched on first, even though I will go back to the inauguration. Dr. M, I'm going to start with this, and I'll open the question up. It seems as though that, the first thing that we saw President Biden do was grab a whole bunch of pens and sign a whole bunch of executive orders to reverse a whole lot of Trump stuff. But it made me, as I saw the picture of it, and I'll pull it up as you're answering the question I asked myself was, are these executive orders done for the good of the country or for the good of just being anti-Trump and kind of planting the flag to show America, I am the anti-Trump? Because you can do some things that may seem to contravene the best interests of Americans, even as you're trying to make the statement of, I'm not Donald Trump.
Yeah, and did you say anti-Trump or anti-Christ?
Oh.
I'm just asking. I just wanted to make sure that I in fact heard it correctly, because I don't have my earpiece on.
You mentioned bars. He's the dude with the red wine, and you get comments like that. Go ahead, Dr. M.
Yeah, but it is very much anti-Trump, because as we look at what's happening, it's really just, look, I've reversed everything that he's done. But the problem, as Kara said, is executive orders have no teeth unless there are rules and regulations that follow them. But people are just not aware of that. So they're thinking, oh, he's reversed this, he's reversed that. It's temporary. The ban, and so now we're going back to allowing abortion at will, all of those kinds of things. Okay, that's fine, but that's anti-Trump. That is not for the good of America. Therein lies the problem. And to Kira's point earlier about the whole impeachment thing, they got a problem. The problem is this, twofold. Number one, whenever you impeach someone, you first have to give them due process. No witnesses were called at the indictment phase. So that's number one. Even assuming you can get over that, here's the other problem. You cannot impeach and remove someone who has already been removed. So this is simply them saying, we're going to, okay, Nancy, bye-bye.
This is where I question all of this, Jeff, because if the strategy is get Trump out of there and Trump's out of there, and you start seeing the slippery slope of, well, we're not as prepared as we thought we were. And we'll get back to the inauguration in just a second, but it kind of goes back to what Kira and now Dr. Emma said, which is you can have the excitement of the election, but if you're not really ready to go, you have a problem. I brought this up on a radio interview with Radio New Zealand earlier this week. Everybody forgets, and KDK Radio in Pittsburgh, everybody forgets that President Obama said, well, we have shovel-ready jobs. And then months later had to say, well, the shovel-ready jobs weren't as ready as we thought they were. And so the economy took years to get back on track versus the months of the campaign promise. You know, we're starting to see a little bit of that already. Now, I know it's early, but Jeff, the excitement of the election, the inauguration, all the tensions rising between November and January 20th, and now we're probably going to still hit a lull.
Yeah, I mean, I think the lull is already here. Like, I think a lot of the excitement over the inauguration was manufactured. I mean, I think nobody's really excited about this. I mean, even people on the left, I think they're glad that Trump is gone, but they're not into Joe Biden like that. I mean, his voter enthusiasm was in the toilet. So it's almost, so the activist media basically had to make this into a huge, like telling us, everybody, that they need to be happy, but even they aren't all that happy about it. I said on another broadcast that it's basically how they're acting is how one would act when they receive a Christmas present that they don't like, but the person's there, so they have to pretend to be excited. That's what's going on right now. So the lull is already here. And maybe this whole impeachment thing is designed to kind of bring that passion back. But like Kira says it's gonna backfire, especially since the whole premise on which their impeachment is founded has been pulled out from under the rug. They said it was a speech that he gave that incited that violence. Well, now even CNN and even the Washington Post, even the activist media is admitting that this thing was planned before he ever gave that speech. So the whole reasoning for the impeachment doesn't work, because unless he managed to go back in time and do that speech just in front of these people, it's not going to work. So I don't know if they're going to have to file another article, or they're just going to go with this one and just have it get voted down. But they're not going to get 17 Republican senators to vote for a conviction based on this premise.
Dr. M, is Kira right where the country, whether you love Trump or hate Trump, just doesn't want to see this impeachment trial, because the ones that love him are like, it's unfair anyway, and it's just going to gin them up even more, and the Democrats take a risk with that. And then everybody else that is either never Trumper or just didn't vote for Trump are like, you know what, he's gone. Why are we going to do this? Because I mean, you know, we've seen other presidents do this. President Obama made President George W. Bush the boogeyman for years after George W. Bush went back to Texas. Are they about to overplay their hand again with this because people are just ready to move on because maybe they're just exhausted from Trump, whether you love him or not?
Yeah, first of all, let me just say that Kara's always right. So let's be 100% clear on that before we say anything
Chris
else.
gets it.
AntiTrump, go ahead.
But yeah, and particularly in this case, absolutely correct. Look, you know, people are like, okay, move on already. And to the question of incitement, it is the biggest joke. First of all, even if you say he incited, what he did was protected speech. That is 100% clear. My question for the Democrats is the stuff that happened in Washington State recently, did you incite that violence where Antifa came out and the far left came out and said that they are not for Biden? Were you inciting that? If you say you weren't, then what the heck are you talking about? That what Trump did? This is absolutely ridiculous. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of taxpayers' money. And I don't understand why Biden doesn't just stop it. Dude, do you really want to start your presidency overshadowed by a sham impeachment and removal?
I'm not even sure that Biden knows he's the president. To be honest, I'm not even sure.
That.
I mean, I look at him, I've been watching him speak for the last few days, and there are moments where he seems very clear, and there are moments when he seems a bit confused. And I don't think the things we were saying about him questioning his capacity, his intellectual capacity at his age and perhaps in his condition, those things that stood before the election, they still stand now. I wasn't saying them because I didn't like Biden. I was saying them because I genuinely believe that there is something physically or medically wrong with him. Although I'm being a little facetious just now, but here's the thing. I don't think Biden has any care for what he's going to die soon. Mm-hmm. And that is just the truth of it. I don't care what you look at this guy. He is not long for this world. I don't think he cares. I think that he always had a wish to be president, just like many men in his position do. He got there. However he got there, that's another conversation. Yes. He got there, he made it happen. And now it's just kind of, well, he doesn't care about whatever legacy he has to leave the Democrats. Or the Democrats know that he is that guy too. And they know that he's probably not going to finish. He's certainly not going to finish out 2 terms as a president, and most likely not even one. They know that what they're doing is setting up for the next administration, which either the administration that's going to be appointed due to his having to bow out, or the administration that they hope will be reelected in 2024. So, of course, this isn't a way for him to start out his presidency, but I don't think he cares. But what I am finding interesting, and we'll see how long this lasts, is that I think this honeymoon period with the media is starting to feel a little bit weird to the media.
Yeah.
You know, he snapped at them a couple of times, which again is that this is part of how Biden won, is he hardly ever talked during the debates, because when Biden talks too much, he sounds insane. And everybody knew that. That's what he called lids every day at 9 a.m. You know, I saw a tweet the other day from somebody, and from some Democrat, and it was like, you don't ever have to worry about Biden tweeting at 1 a.m. And I'm like, yeah, no kidding. He's going to call a lid at 9 a.m.
Well, you bring up a couple of things that are interesting. I'm going to leave some of the grimmer stuff aside, just because I'm going to leave some of the grimmer stuff aside because, Kira, I'm just saying
it like it is. I'm not even trying to be mean. I'm saying what it is. And we're going to have a conversation pretty soon where you're going to have to admit that I was right. He's not making it out of this 4 years.
Well, let me go to this, because this is actually where I was going to go with that. Number one, Joe Biden, seems as though everybody forgot. I understand what the Electoral College was. Joe Biden won by default. The DNC had to clear out the field for him because, to your point, Kira, he was getting ripped on the debate stage. He was not doing well in the primary election. Then from there, it took literally Donald Trump to actively lose the race. He's an incumbent with an economy that was going pretty well until the pandemic, and he had some things to hang his hat on if he didn't get in his own way. With that said, you have that, and then an inauguration that makes people ask, and Jeff, I'll go to you first. Were people more excited about Kamala Harris being inaugurated as the vice president than they were about Joe Biden being inaugurated as the president?
Honestly, I think even that has been manufactured. I mean, it might be true. They might have been a little bit more excited about that because she's a black woman or half black or Asian or whatever the
I'm
hell she is.
uncomfortable referring to Kamala as black. I'm just going to put that down right now. I'm
You know,
uncomfortable with it.
I struggle with it too because
Yeah.
but here's what's weird about it. I have no problem saying that Obama was black, but with Kamala Harris, Kamala Harris identified with her Asian side when she went into the Senate, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just
Yeah.
it's kind of confusing to me. But here's one where I'll call her a woman of color. I'll go with that. But and first female woman of color. So I know that they were to a certain extent excited about that, but I still don't even see a lot of excitement for that because look at how she did during the Democratic primaries. Nobody wanted her to be the nominee. Maybe for 5 minutes. Yeah, nobody wanted her on that stage. They placed her there. So I don't see that the country is really excited about it. I think that the only thing that people on the left are excited about is that they don't have to deal with Trump anymore, and that's it. That doesn't bode well for the eventual Harris administration, because I agree with you, Kira. Biden's not going to make it through his full first term. I hope that it's because he resigns. I don't want him to die, but he's not going to be able to do it. See, now that's just messed up. That's how that look.
He's supposed to live forever. He's an old man.
but yeah, I mean, but either way, I mean, when Kamala is president, I think that that's really when we need to watch out, because she has a much further left agenda than Biden does. And hopefully she's not able to spend enough time in office to do any real damage. But I mean, that's the only thing that I'm really worried about. I'm not as worried about Biden as I am about Harris.
Yeah, and not just and the thing to remember about Harris isn't just her being in the Oval Office completely unelected, just appointed, but who she brings up behind her as VP. Who do you think that's going to be? Gavin Newsom.
No, I think it's
going to be Gavin.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh,
so now you've got California, right? Now you've got California in the White House.
Yeah.
Oh God. No.
Yep.
Oh.
Well, let me ask this question.
Chris is speechless.
No.
No.
That's a nightmare.
How long do we think that this manufactured excitement that Jeff keeps mentioning, how long does this last? I mean, Obama had a longer honeymoon, Chris, than most did. But I mean, eventually it ran into some pitfalls, right? For example, the shovel-ready jobs aren't as shovel-ready as we thought they were. Another thing I want to get to later on in the show is the fact that African-American voters started falling out of love with President Obama a little bit. They had to start making excuses for him because midway through year one, as he was the first African-American president that told the first African-American attorney general not to talk about race, he then turned around and had HBCUs putting their staff on furlough because he was cutting money to them as he was making sure that Planned Parenthood got their money. So there was this point in time where the excitement started waning a little bit. Is it going to be a lot sooner with Biden and Harris, or is it going to be a lot more because people were so exhausted with Trump?
Right.
Did we lose Chris?
Chris is speechless, Kira. So I'm going to ask you to answer that question.
Chris, you're totally frozen in this frame. It's hilarious.
Go ahead, Kira. What do you think?
Well, what I think is that, no, I think that the media is going to be here to push along this excitement, even to manufacture it for as long as they need to. And listen, it's not as much fun as we're making. It's not like it's not for nothing that Kamala Harris is the vice president of the United States. I mean, it means something. It is a first, but yeah, I'm with Jeff. I don't have the sense of excitement. And I don't know that anybody cares about I think you're right. People are more excited that we don't have Donald Trump in the office than we have Kamala Harris. And I don't think, I honestly, you will never convince me that anyone is genuinely excited for Joe Biden in office. I can't think of any. Trump was right. He ran his campaign from a basement. I mean, there is just I think the media is going to love all over him, even though he's already starting to push back on them a little bit if they're not going to carry all the water all the way that he wants it. But the enthusiasm level, this is something that the Democrats are going to have to battle. And this is why they're pursuing impeachment. And this is why big tech is pursuing all this censorship, deplatforming people and hoping to get away with it. They really hope that this is a kill shot, that they've put us all down, and that, you know, there's never going to be another surprise election like 2016 again. And the goal is to suppress excitement. And I don't believe that can be done to the American people. I really don't. At some point, the American spirit's going to have its way.
Well,
So,
Dr. Metzler, now that Kira took all your words, I'm going to let you try to fill in and add to her brilliance. She was talking about people.
he agrees with me.
Well, of course he does. Apple polisher. I mean, all these things in regards to the lack of excitement for the Biden administration. When does it wear off? I mean, he's starting to roll out policies. Some of the vaccines will be out there. That's starting to be, well, I don't know if we're going to be able to get that out there as fast. We're talking about $2,000 checks. Well, maybe there'll only be $1,400 checks. Hey, well, you know, we're going to be able to change the trajectory of how this virus is spreading. Well, there's not much we can really do initially. When do people start saying, you know what, it's particularly Black America, when do folks start saying, we got sold a bill of goods by a Scranton Joe?
Next week.
Wow.
And here's why I say that, because people were not excited about them to begin with. With Obama, people at least were excited. And so, first of all, that whole vaccine thing, that's bunk. I mean, there is no way, at best, if you can get 40% of this country vaccinated, that's at best what you're going to be able to do. So that's number one. So stop the lies about, oh, we're going to get 80%. That's never going to happen. It's not going to happen. People of color in particular are not going to take it in significant ways. So you've got that going on. Number two, with the whole thing about selling a bill of goods, you know, hey, for African Americans in particular, supposedly your idea is, well, you know, we're going to take care of you. But one of the first things that you do is look at the policy relative to illegal immigration. And I'm sorry, I'm an immigrant. Yes, I came here legally, as should everyone else. And so if you're telling me that you're for African Americans, you're not acting that way. And to the point earlier, I don't view Kamala as
Kiki, are you riding?
there you go. I don't view her as Black. Woman of color, whatever.
I don't think she does either. I think this is crazy. I don't think she thinks that about herself. That's a label we literally slapped on her 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. I don't think she did. And the whole, you know, Chucks and Pearls and that whole Vogue, whatever that magazine was thing. Okay, what are you trying to lighten her skin? Come on, stop already.
What's going to happen when we get like an actual Black woman in office? Now we don't get that first. Now
exactly
this kind of weird mix that we just plucked out of nowhere when she herself is on record. Matter of fact, maybe when we get off here, I'll go find it. She is on record saying, I do not identify as African American. It's not how I was raised, and I wouldn't dare take that legacy upon myself. That is, she said that. Those are her words.
Yeah, but except for the fact that she celebrated Kwanzaa and she remembered the stories of Kwanzaa. Look, I'm from the Caribbean. Yeah, I'm from the Caribbean. We never heard of Kwanzaa. Okay, we're about in the same age range. When she was growing up, talking about the candles.
Oh,
no,
please,
baby, we don't have that in the Caribbean. So
I did. My stepmother went through a Black Power phase when I was a teenager, where we were not allowed to have any like white media in the house. We weren't allowed to have any no white magazines, no Vogue, not even Newsweek. That was like a white magazine. My baby sister, wasn't allowed to have any white dolls. We had to go get her Black Barbie dolls. And I can remember being like 19 years old with my 5-year-old sister in in the store. I was instructed to buy her a Barbie doll, but only a black one. And her screaming at me in the middle of the store, "You always make me buy the black Barbie. You never let me have a white Barbie." And me being like, "Oh my God, here, have the blonde Barbie."
Yeah,
I'm embarrassed. But we did have to celebrate.
She was blonde, but was she also still black?
No.
There's that.
It was a blonde, typical Barbie. That's what she wanted.
Compton blonde Barbie. You could do that.
No Compton blonde Barbies then. There was like a Tyra Banks black Barbie. That was it. But I say all this to say that we
attention, by the way, when you said Tyra Banks, Jeff was like, "Oh, I'm in the show."
Yeah.
I'm trying to cut you off. I just noticed that, Jeff. You ain't fooling nobody. Keep going.
Oh, I'm not fine.
Tyra taught us to smize. No, listen, we celebrated Kwanzaa briefly during my teenage years for 4 or 5 years, and it sucks. So Pamela can, like, she's lying when she says this is beautiful historic holiday. It's made up. We just made it up in the 60s, and it's not fun. It's not fun.
Let's take a step back for a second, because this is interesting that we're talking about this with Biden and Harris, because just 6 months ago, we were told how much they're going to heal the country, heal the racial divide and everything else. And we did go through a whole lot of divisive times over the last several years, including, by the way, 2014 Ferguson, 2015 Baltimore. By the way, those were on the Obama watch, as well as stuff that happened on the Trump watch, Charlottesville and the like. However, what is this administration, Jeff, really going to be for Black people? Because if they weren't really that excited for the administration as they were against Donald Trump, now that they're in, now that the Democrats have 50 senators, and we still have policies that Black people are kind of shrugging their shoulders about and saying, I don't really know how that's going to help me. And we know that the Biden administration is being tugged back and forth between the pro-school choice segment, which is overwhelmingly supported by African Americans, and the teachers unions, which is overwhelmingly not supported by African Americans or represented by African Americans, by the way. And that's symbolic of what's going on and what Black America is seeing with this emerging and incoming administration. What is this administration's legacy starting to become with Black people? I know it's very early, but you're already seeing signs, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, Biden's not going to do anything. And I don't think that Black people will really be surprised by it. Right. I mean, I don't think that they expect much from him. I mean, I know that they've got some cheerleaders. They come after me on Twitter like, oh, don't criticize Biden or whatever. No, you know he's not going to do anything. Now, I get it. You're glad that Trump's out, but Biden is not going to do anything. Like,
how long does that last, Jeff? How long does that last? I mean, you can be like, thank God Trump's gone. But when you're unemployed for 8-9 months, you're going to forget about Trump. Yep. I mean, so how long is that going to last with Black folks who, by the way, were calling Joe Biden out this time last year? We're calling him out on the campaign trail, calling him out in the media. I got to believe it's going to change soon.
Yeah, like the good doctor says, it's going to start next week. I mean, and I don't think that that's much of an exaggeration. I think that black men especially are going to start calling him out. He's already announced his agenda. He's announced all these executive orders. None of them have anything to do with Black people. I know he's met with some people, but that's all he's done so far. And I don't think that Black people expect him to get a lot done right this second. But is he even going to at least lay out his plan for Black America? Is he going to say, hey, I'm going to have this done by this time, yada, yada, yada. Here's why I'm doing this. Here's why I'm not going to support school choice, even though you guys want it. But that's basically the attitude he's going to have. He doesn't have to do anything because he has the support automatically. And this will happen with the next Democratic president too. The only way that this will even matter is once they start having actual competition. I think that day is coming, but right now, Democrats know that they don't have to do much.
But it's interesting. Let me go to you first, Dr. M. I'll pull Kira back in just a second. You're seeing articles like this. This came out this week in the Financial Times. You see the headline, Black Americans like me expect Joe Biden to deliver. It seems as though, unlike what happened with Barack Obama, when he went from that meteoric rise from state senator to U.S. senator to president, literally in 7 years, and people forget that. He was a state senator in 2003 as a long shot senatorial candidate for the U.S. Senate. He went from that to president in 6 years. This expectation, you'd have never seen this headline from a non-black Republican in 2009, but you're seeing it now. Jeff seems to be thinking that people are going to give Biden and Harris a pass. These type of headlines seem to indicate otherwise.
No, I think Jeff is 100% right. Look, you can have all these headlines, you can do all of this stuff, but at the end of the day, for too many Black Americans, the issue is anti-Trump versus Savior Biden. That's the reality. And so a lot of people simply believe still that the Democratic Party is going to be more for them, whether they deliver or not. In part, though, that's part of our fault on the Republican side, because we don't articulate the reasons why Black people should vote first. We cannot continue this message of having people saying, get off the Democratic plantation, all of y'all are criminals, all of that kind of stuff. They're not going to vote for us. Why would they? And so that's the thing. So from the Democratic standpoint, they're saying, look at us. We're very diverse. Look at our cabinet. We have the first Black defense secretary. We have the first Black this, the first Black that. And they're like, yeah. But at the end of the day, that doesn't matter.
So it's interesting. You said something that it sparked a thought in my mind. And I'm almost afraid to ask the question. And I'm going to go to Kira first because she's going to both be very articulate and insightful, but probably burn me with this. Barack Obama was the savior for Black America as the first Black president. Joe Biden was the savior for Black America, saving them from Donald Trump part 2, at least in Black America's mind. Who could possibly be the Black Republican savior that plays a similar role that actually inspires Black people to start diversifying their politics? Are we at a point in time where that's just never going to happen? At one point in time, people thought that could be Tim Scott. They've thrown some other names out there, Michael Steele at one point in time in 2009. Is that ever going to happen? And if it does, is there somebody out there that can do it now? Or is there a prototype that can do it now? Because otherwise, it seems as though this cycle is just going to continue to repeat itself for the next 50 to 75 years.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't think in our lifetime we'll see like a Black Republican savior. I do think that is a sort of a trait of the left, that they've been able to make a brand. So, and they could flip. I mean, politics flips, but it usually takes decades. And I'll tell you what, though, you guys, Lenny, you and Dr. M particularly said something on last episode and the episode before that I have really been thinking about a lot and have been podcasting about and discussing with my fans and readers on my pages. And it is that if the GOP wants to remain relevant, it is time to start playing some identity politics. And I know that there's people watching this right now who are cringing at that, right? Like you're probably white, and you're cringing because you're saying to yourself that A, that's playing the left's game, and B, we don't believe in that. We believe in, content of character, and we don't play those race games. And what Dr. M says, first of all, that's BS, because you promote so-and-so's uncle and such's cousin, and they haven't earned it. That's nepotism runs rampant no matter what side of the aisle you're on. So we know that's not true. Yeah. But second of all, there's nothing wrong with playing identity politics. And the thing is, Lenny, you pointed out that the Democrats have the first Black president. They have the first woman of color vice president.
Right.
They're going to have the first unelected woman president, probably. They have all these firsts, and to us, they might not seem like a big deal, but to the people, they are. That's why you asked me that question about the savior on the left versus the savior on the right, because to the general electorate, it is important that there are firsts, and that's what people want to vote for, and that's what inspires people, right or wrong. It's the world we live in, not the world we wish it could be. So we need to start playing politics as being a part of the world we live in, and the world we live in now, whether you like it or not, is extremely diverse. America is not just a white country anymore.
Yeah.
We have to start looking like the people we're asking to vote for us. And it's hard to have a really compelling message out there if people can't even visually look at you first and say, these people, the Republicans need to be able to look at the voter and say, I know what you're going through because I am you.
Yes.
And we can't do that right now because there's a lot of the faces of the Republican Party are white and older and sort of stereotypical looking. And that's nothing against who they are as people or what they have to offer. But it is time to start really playing the game the way the Democrats have been playing, at least insofar as visuals, representation. Start promoting Black people up through the ranks and not just, one or two, but I'm like and this is most people getting over, and no one wants to get over. And that happens in the Democrat Party too. But that's what the Republicans need to do. They need to start playing identity politics. And I'll say one last thing. Identity politics is not bad. We already do it. We do it all the time, right?
Yeah.
If Mitch McConnell or whatever, Ted Cruz, let's say Ted Cruz is going to speak to the Women's Republican Group of Texas, he's going to go and talk to them about things women want to know about.
Right.
He's going to present to them women's issues because that's what they care about. But if he goes to the farmers group in Iowa, he's going to talk to them about what farmers are interested in, irrigation and water rights and ethanol and those things. That's identity politics. I don't understand why Republicans think that it's any different when you're talking about appealing to Black people or Hispanics. It's time for us to be deliberate. You know who gets it? You know what I saw yesterday, you guys, when the National Guard was sleeping in the parking garage?
Yeah.
That kid, Madison Hawthorne.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He came with pizzas, he had cameras,
Yeah.
he delivered these. He had this tweet. He was like, I'll never let a soldier sleep on the ground on my watch. And I'm like, this kid gets it.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sure he had good intentions, but also he knew the visuals. He knew exactly what he needed to do. Get those cameras in there, bring some warm food, get those soldiers shaking your hands. That's what GOP needs to be, is more deliberate about their messaging.
And I think let me go to Jeff and Chris. Part of that too is the power of being entertaining and inspiring while still being good politically. If you go back to literally 1960, Kennedy wins because he's better looking on television and he's more affable on television. If you go look at 1980, it was the imagery and the energy of Ronald Reagan that helped turn things around in America. If you go to 1992, it was Bill Clinton playing a saxophone on this Arsenio Hall show. Do you remember Arsenio Hall, Jeff? Never mind. And then from there,
Dog pound.
Anywho,
And Obama went on Fallon and did the slow jam.
There you go. And Trump was an entertainer that knew how to manipulate the media. And it's as if, aside from Trump and maybe Reagan, that has been seeded by conservatives, Jeff. We're really good at talking in echo chambers, but if you can use that element to go get the soft middle, Trump proved just 4 years ago it does exist, and all you need is a candidate on the other side that doesn't get it, and you win elections that everybody else doesn't think you should.
I think even this whole conversation really proves a really popular political maxim. The Democrats are the party of the dangerous. They're dangerous. And the Republicans are the party of the stupid. And when it comes to this stuff, Republicans are stupid. And the thing is, and like Kira said, I mean, it's not that we need to start playing identity politics. We already do it. We're just stupid when we do it. So, I mean, you'll say, oh, we don't like identity politics. Yay, Brexit. We don't like identity politics. Oh, Rob Smith is Black and gay, and he's on our side. So to you liberals, okay, no, it's got to get deeper than that, y'all. I mean, it's got to get deeper than that. I mean,
it needs to be deliberate.
Yeah, deliberate. Trump wasn't afraid to do it. He wasn't afraid to say, I did this for the Black community. And now he exaggerated a lot, but still, at least he was willing to even speak.
So
to
the
Black
Democrats. The Democrats exaggerate. That's all they do is exaggerate.
Yes. But we're talking about deliberate but intelligent, though, right? I mean, we got to do it. It seems like we do it for the window dressing. But I mean, and Jeff brings up a good point, but it would be better if we also had some policies behind it that made some sense, that were still conservative, that still valued our principles.
Well,
and my thing is, when I interact with white conservatives on Twitter, so many of them get it. I mean, why is it that they can say things to me like, you know what, we should go into Black communities and talk about talk specifically about how conservative solutions can solve the problems that they're dealing with. Yeah, exactly. So why doesn't the GOP get that? Why? And it's not just the party itself. I mean, it's a lot of the media too. They're just they haven't really figured out where they stand on this. Because like I said, on one hand they'll say they don't like identity politics, but then they engage in identity politics. Well, choose one, and you know what? Choose the identity politics, because you'll get more Americans that way.
Chris, isn't it also about control too? Because once you go to identity politics and you don't understand the culture, that means that you no longer control the message, and that's where the fear comes in.
Well, and that is exactly where the fear comes in. And so on the GOP side, here's what we do. We're and particularly in this administration, we are putting people out there who are supposedly carrying the message. They're not carrying the message. What we have is essentially the revival of, to some extent, Amos and Andy. And, you know, all of these kinds of caricatures. We are not those caricatures. And so if we go out and we're bringing the message, there are so many things that, for example, you look at the whole concept of economic development. You look at self-sufficiency. Why would I not want to be self-sufficient rather than taking help from the government? As Ronald Reagan says, whenever I hear I'm from the government, I'm here to help, that means I better go the other way. but we've not been able to get that message. The conservative principles and the fundamentals of conservatism, we have gotten away from that, and instead, you know, are on all these kind of fringe elements. If you look at Black people in particular, our concern is about feeding our families. Our concern is about economic survival. We have
educating our kids.
Educating our kids. We have all of those concerns. I don't need to get up in there and do a song and dance about that. What I need to really be able to do is educate on the principles of conservatism. And identity politics, properly done, does that.
Yes, thank you so much. I wish we had an applause sound effect, because I'll just keep.
Wait, is this like the reverse apple polishing now? Oh, Dr. Metzler, professor teaching us all.
Don't be mad. I said something nice about you already.
It was my birthday week.
I said you
made run over for that. that's not special.
Look, I just want to say, Dr. M, I mean, amen to that. And this is the thing, and we know this because we're pundits in a world that is dominated by white folks.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't understand. They think because we're all on the same team that and then even on the left, people think that we're just doing this because we stand out and we make more money as Black Republicans, which is hilarious. But you know, the thing is like, it's okay to make space for Black Republicans, for Black conservatives. But there's a lot of people, even on our side, who they want one, they want two, but they don't want 8 or 9 or 10.
No.
Fox wants 1 or 2 Black women, not 8, 9, 10. And the thing is that the whole tone would shift, because perspective shifts if you start flooding the zone. The GOP needs to start flooding the zone. And this is not just an issue of Black versus white. It's also an issue of elite versus the average Republican.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the elitists, it's not just race related. The elitists don't want to move over for those of us who represent the average American. So there's that battle going on too. But listen, Republicans, it's okay. It really is okay to say, I'm going to step aside, or we're going to promote this person because they are Black, because they are gay, because they are a woman. We're going to do these things because these people speak to a certain segment and hold a certain perspective that they can speak about fluently and with authority, because it's the life they live. It's okay. And you mark my words, the second the GOP does that, because the message is good.
Yes.
Like Dr. M said, the message is what Black people want to hear. It's school choice. It's solid economics for your family, learning how to be financially literate, learning how to be a part of the institutions in our society that we find racist now. So getting in there and changing them from the inside. Those are messages of empowerment that the Republican Party has, but Black people can't hear them because there's no one that looks like them disseminating the message. And no, I'm sorry, it cannot just be Candace Owens.
Right.
But
and I really like what you said, Kira, about the elite here, because I just talk about, when I talk to the rank and file, most of them get it, but the elite doesn't. I mean, you have to be part of the Republican aristocracy to have any type of power, and I think that they're kind of afraid of losing it. I mean, there's a book I've been reading just really quick called Republicans in the Black Vote, and he put forth a theory that I actually believed before I even started reading the book. But a lot of the showboating that they do as far as how they're trying to reach out to Black voters, these people are actually there to convince white conservatives that they're actually trying to reach out to the Black community when they're really not. Why? Right. Because 99.9% of white conservatives would love to see more Black and Hispanic people over on the right. They're tired of getting called racist all the time. So they don't feel comfortable being in a party that only wants white people. So they have this whole setup to where they say things like, oh, there's going to be a huge Black exodus for Trump and yada, 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 knowing that they don't talk to Black people, knowing that they talk about Chicago, but they don't go to Chicago to talk to people. So I think once there's going to have to be a reckoning. I mean, and I think that it's going to be the non-elites, the non-establishment that exposes it and says, hey, so this is how we're going to do things from now on. We are going to actually reach out to minority Americans so that we can make the right but look more like America.
It's more than that. And I want to say this, and we're going to get ready to wrap up. It also has to be, you got to trust the messenger. I can't say that I trust Kira Davis because she's smart and she's talented and she loves America. And the very first time she disagrees with something I say, I say, well, hold on, Kira. Wait a minute. Hold on.
Right.
Black, right. I'm kind of sort of the host. You can't really talk no more. No, right. Either she's smart and she's talented and she loves America, or she doesn't. And I can't question that the very first time. Too often within the conservative movement, and it has hurt many Americans because we can't get the policies that can empower them out there. It's because people want to control the Black voice that's out there in the conservative movement. That's the problem. If you're going to empower Kira Davis, you got to let her be Kira Davis. If you're going to empower Jeff Charles, you got to let him be Jeff Charles. And there will be times where they disagree with you.
Yes.
But that's okay too, because we don't run away from disagreement within the conservative movement. We have a big tent. We believe in the free market, allowing ideas and resources to rise to the top based on their merit, not based on any type of bullying, whether it's from the left or the right.
Lenny, I'm going to let you finish, but I want to interrupt because you said something that reminded me. I wrote an article, which I didn't mean to be mean, but it was something that needed to be said about Candace Owens. Is that this is the trouble we Black conservatives have with her. A lot of times we have to be stuck answering for her to the Black community. And somebody, and I'm sorry that I can't remember your name, to credit you, but someone tweeted at me something when I posted that article that really made an impact. They said a lot of times white conservatives don't want to hear Black voices. They want to hear white voices coming out of Black people.
Yes.
You know who said that, right? She said she doesn't want to credit the person that said it.
Who?
Anyway.
It was not. It was not you. It was not you. I mean, you may have said it, but this was from somebody else.
Even if she'll admit I may have said it, and she still won't give me credit. I'm ending the show. I'm shutting it down. Kira,
I'm 100% sure it wasn't you, Lenny.
Go, but you're not. Go brag on your Listen to Yourself podcast so we can end the
Anyway, it's the truth. No matter who said it, Lenny, and you know what? It doesn't really matter, does it? At the end of the day,
it matters to him.
End the show.
It doesn't really matter, Lenny. You know, it's all encompassing, and you're a humble guy, so you don't care if you get credit for it. But anyway, I do think that is. I wish that is something that a lot of white conservatives would think about when they hear people like us complaining. We're not complaining because we're like jealous or anything like that. What we're saying is that the way we speak to each other or to other people is different. We have our own language. We do. I mean, just every group does. If you're Italian, you talk to your family differently. Everybody does. And that's okay. Let us do that. And understand that the way we speak or the words we say or the concerns that we have might not always sound welcoming to your ears or might not always make sense to your ears. But as Lenny so definitely pointed out, the point is that, is this an intelligent person who is a conservative, who loves America? Then, let them speak. Let us speak. Let us have our voice the way our voice comes out of our mouths. I never, ever, ever get Black people telling me, never, not once have I had a Black person come to me and say, who you need to listen to, Kira? Candace Owens.
Right.
But every day, 4 dozen white people write me to tell me that. That tells me that the voice is not being heard properly.
That is an excellent point. I'm going to start putting that out on Twitter too and see how it.
Here, Kira, tell us about Just Listen to Yourself real quick.
Just Listen to Yourself with Kira Davis is my podcast, available wherever you find your podcasts. And if you would like to hear more from me, bonus episodes, or have personal conversations with me, join me over at my community page on locals.com. Yeah, that's davisnation.locals.com, davisnation.locals.com, and Real Kira Davis on Twitter.
Kira has so many things she has to promote. Dr. M, you have so many degrees that you have to brag upon. Brag upon yourself real quick so we can get out of here.
Just a couple of things. First of all, I thank you all for welcoming me to this show. This is absolutely fabulous. So
you bogarted your way in here. Don't make it seem as though we invited you. You
we love you.
Hurry up.
Lenny made me take you on, but I'm glad he made me. I'm glad he made me.
So love you all. And that's my big thing for this week.
All right, Mr. See, apple polisher. Make him hurry up. Say something quick and witty. You got 30 seconds so we can end the show.
Yeah, you can find my stuff on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, Breaking Conservatarian, and my audio podcast, which I just launched this past week, Breaking Conservatarian. You can get it on iTunes. You can get it on Spotify. You can get it on Google Podcasts as well. And you can always get me on Twitter at Jeff on the Right.
Jeff's new Twitter handle is going to be I'm Black and still play the banjo. So you got to make sure that you're ready for him at CPAC. So I'm going to let Kira go to the bar. I'm going to let Chris get back to his wine. I'm going to let Jeff get back to his banjo. I'm going to let you get back to a little sense of sanity, but know that we love you. We're looking at these political issues, these policy issues, these cultural issues, and we want the best for this country. So thank you for joining us once again. We will catch up to you next week. We love you. We'll see you soon. TCNGB, take care and God bless, except for Kira.
Hey.
Kidding. Just kidding. Peace.